All right. This is Real Estate Radio, our Get to Know series. And across the glass, there's the lovely Dottie Herman. Hello, Dottie.
Hi, how are you? Glad to be on your show.
A little show? Well, so, I'm going to start with this. And very candidly, I'll say that I've been trying, I feel like it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You've seen the movie.
Excuse
right?
me?
You've seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the movie.
Oh, of course.
Right. And so Cameron's sitting there in his bed sick. He's like, he's going to keep calling me. He's going to keep calling me. So I'm kind of like Ferris Bueller and you're Cameron.
No, but you see, that's a great quality because there's a lot of people, and I don't say this in a bad way, that, you just get so many calls sometimes. And so there's the calls that I know. I go, this person, I bet this person will call 25 times. So therefore, by 3 times, I'll have to answer it. Okay, but like I know the people that are persevere, and I think that that's a good quality because sometimes people just don't take calls. There's so many of them, and when somebody keeps on calling, first of all, it shows an interest. And if you're in the real estate business, you wouldn't be that good if as soon as somebody didn't call you back, that you never call them anymore either.
Oh.
So I think it's a good quality.
Well, thank you. My pop actually taught me the 3 P's in life are you're a polite young man, you're a persistent young man, but you got to learn to be patient.
Your father sounds like a wise man. I haven't heard that before, but I like it. So it's patience.
Yeah, patience is the big one. I'm very persistent. I love following up and finding people like yourself, and then being polite.
Polite
is key, and then wrapped around with patience.
I'm going to remember that. I'll have to keep that in my notes.
Well, I have to tell my pop, because I know some of the leaders you follow, like Mr. Welsh and Mr. Branson, and these amazing leaders, and you're surrounded by leaders when you go to these conferences. So I've always thought it kind of interesting. When I first met Merle Whitehead was a great example. You remember Merle, Realty USA, and Merle, the conversations with Merle, and finally get a chance to meet him, finally got a chance to meet Dottie, met Sherry Chris and Gino, all these great leaders in real estate. It's weird because I feel like, not like you guys are rock stars, but close. Because I've seen it at because I've watched it, Dottie, at these events, watching vendors just get to the stage after the panel ended. Everyone's getting to Dottie, try to get to Joan, whoever it is. And I think it's a little bit of fandom. Do you feel kind of the same way if you meet Richard Branson, when you meet someone you really admire, or a leader?
I do, and obviously, I wouldn't compare any one of us to him, but I would say this. I would say part of it is, I think we've been in the business and we've kind of grown up in it, so people have watched us, over the years, and we're very, we're open, we're real, and we're open to people talking to us, so even if you had somebody that you really thought was great and you really wanted to speak with them, a lot of the people will just get off after, their time is done and they're out of there. So I think I know all the people, in fact, Sherry is a really close friend of mine. I think that we're open, we're okay with, I've spent time with people who have on my social media that are not even in the real estate business. They're in their 20s and they have an idea for a business, and they're like, oh, it would be so great. It would mean so much if you would just hear my business plan. And most of them have nothing to do with real estate. Mm-hmm. And many times I take the time to do it. I was on one girl with California for 5 hours. And I said, okay, that's overdue. But I also think that's great. I think that it's good for people to share their successes. And I'm coming out with a book, probably whenever I get done with it, which will probably be another 6 or 7 months. But it really goes through my life, because I think for all of us, even me when I was younger, you look at someone and you say, my God, they're successful, but you see them there already. And you really don't realize how many times they fell. We got rejected. The whole thing got screwed up. they cried, okay, but they keep on picking themselves up and getting back into the game. And I tell people that, and I say to them, the people that never try anything, they never fail, or they never fall on the floor because they don't do anything. I mean, that's part of success, being able to be rejected or have some idea that doesn't work and not giving up and just say, okay, this is there's something in this middle of the road that I can't go forward. Like, how do I go around it? Let me try it. And many times, maybe it'll never work, but you don't need everything to work. So you need just some things to work. And I think that's a message I try to tell people, because I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, I'm no different. And I start the same way everyone did. And, I was so nervous the first time I ever spoke on a stage. And again, every time you get on stage, you just never know that audience. And I remember going on listings, and the person, I was afraid to close, I knew they'd say no, and I didn't want to hear the word no until I understood, hey, this is not somebody who is rejecting me. They don't really know me. That I haven't really convinced them on why it's a good thing for them to do.
Value, yeah.
But
well, no doubt, because again, the fandom part to me is just out of respect. And in learning a little bit about your story, and I'd love to get more into that, sure. But just the idea of the success, and folks have to respect that type of. I just watch you guys go from an agent, working your way up and have a team, and then you work your way up a little farther and do this. So I'd love to hear that overall story. But if you don't mind, I saw in your background there, I think I know who that band is. But I start these because my background's radio. I think music, I love music. I love going to these shows and watching people get out on dance floors that, like me, probably shouldn't be on the dance floor. But what is do you have a go-to? Because when I start these conversations, I think it's fun to find out that little piece of the music side. So, Dottie and Marie.
Well, first of all, whenever I get an apartment or I buy a house that I personally am going to live in, before I buy furniture, before I do anything other than clean it, I put the best sound system that you can buy, because music, that's part of me. I love music. I love a lot of different kinds of music. And I always have music on. If you come to my house, you'll usually always hear music. So, and all different kinds, depending on the mood I'm in. So music. And I love to dance. I mean, I grew up taking, ballet and tap and whatever, maybe modern jazz. And then when I was young, the hustle was big. And so there was a school called the New York Hustle. And a good friend of mine was an instructor there. So he was nice enough when we didn't have any money to come on Sundays, and we would take ballroom dancing and hustling. And so I love dancing. I love music. I can play tennis, but I'm not the greatest, and it's not passionate about it. I love getting together with just friends and hanging out and having a glass of wine and just chilling. And I love the ocean.
Well, that doesn't sound like a bad combination. So you're sitting at the ocean. What is typically playing in the background? Do you like new age music? Is it jazz? Is it rock? Because
there's nothing. Well, it's really depending on my mood. I'm generally, it depends on the mood I'm in. If I stop when I'm in Southampton, I get up. I either go to Soul Cycle first if I decide to take an early class, or late. But if I go to an early class, I get up, I go to the Golden Pear that has great coffee. I get a cup of coffee, and I take my car, and you can drive your car right on top of the ocean, basically. And I just sit and I just look at it and just, feel it. And I'm usually not listening to very hard rock at that time in the morning. But then when if I was lying at a beach or something, I might be. But I wouldn't say there's any particular, depends on my mood. It depends on the mood that I'm in, what I would be listening to. But the ocean does something for me. And I could never live, I don't want to say never, but I don't think I would want to live in a place that access to an ocean was too far away. Although I like, everyone said, well, this has lakes and that's great, but to me, the ocean speaks to you. And
Yeah, well,
so,
that's music in itself, right?
yeah. So
The ocean
that,
sounds, sitting there in silent with just the ocean sounds and the wind or whatever. That's pretty cool music.
yeah. So that, I mean, you can even get that music, I think I know they have, recordings that are just ocean music. And I'm an insomniac. I mean, I'm up, you'll see my texts and emails probably 3 or 4 in the morning because I cannot sleep. So I tried all of these apps, sleep apps. Okay. And most of them have, you know, ocean music and like a wind and things of that sort. And you're supposed to block everything out of your mind. It's supposed to make you sleep. I haven't had the greatest success with it, but I've tried.
There's always an app for it, no matter what. It may not work, but there's always an app for it.
For everything, believe
All right,
me.
so let's go ahead and let's do a kind of a brief history. We can kind of start where the first moment where you said, I think I'm interested in buying and selling real estate.
I didn't ever say that.
Okay.
Okay.
Something similar, maybe, no?
Well, it's never my dream. So to be in the real estate business. I got out of school and then I wanted to be a teacher, but I was a single mom and I had to make more money than teaching. So I went, and at the time, there were only 2 schools that offered this course. I got certified as a financial planner, which there was 2 schools in the United States that offered that at the time. And it was Adelphi and the School of Denver. And it was about maybe at the time 10 courses. Now it's probably 35. And basically, financial planning, I went to get my Series 7, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. I thought, I'll make a lot of money there. I'll be out in the business world. And as I was in the courses, which were over a number of years, I took that at night. I met somebody who said, you would be great at Merrill Lynch. And me thinking the brokerage, because, Merrill Lynch was a big brokerage in the 80s. And obviously when I went there, it was the real estate. So they had just, decided to try to get multiple customer bases, multiple profit centers from that same customer. So they said, we'll sell them a stock and then get them a mortgage and then we'll sell them a house. And I thought, well, that's good on a resume. Okay, sounds good. Merrill Lynch sounds good. It was a great company in the 80s. I was sad when everything fell apart, and so I said I took the job and I sold a little bit. They were big on teaching me how to sell, but I really learned how to sell when I was in high school, and I lied and I said I was a phys ed major in college, and I ended up running a health spa. I told my teachers, I was a senior at the time, and I said, oh, my dad's not going to pay for college. I have to work. And if I can't work, I won't be able to really go to college or a good college. So can I get off early? And they all let me off early. There was not many courses left anyway at the end of the year. And I ended up running a health spa. And it was 5 Canadian guys who came from Canada. And when I tell you, they taught me how to sell. They taught me better than anything that I've ever even seen or heard in real estate.
Really?
And then when I went to Merrill, gosh, I spent days and hours and God knows how much time in selling. And I often really get upset with real estate companies. I even say when I teach at the real estate schools, I said, like, a lot of people know everything about real estate, but they don't know how to sell. And there's very few courses, if you look around at every curriculum, that really teach you how to sell. Okay. And not that you can sell something to somebody that they don't want, but you need to know how with the close. Close them. They're on a list. You're on a listing. They're ready to be closed. So I learned all that: closing, when to close, pre-closes, all of those things. And I think that that's really also important. And I think that in your life, if you think about it, everything you do is a sale. What you can sell your children if you want to if you could keep it up.
Sure.
but everything really is a sale.
Wait, Dottie, I'm sorry. So these are like selling basically health.
No. I learned how to sell initially when I was in high school, when I worked at the health spa. Now they were selling packages for people and they were very expensive. And, the women would come in and of course they'd say, oh, this is great, but too much money. So, when there was basically objections and answers and objections and answers.
Yeah, well, I only rehashed that one, Dottie, because my daughter just had a very successful run selling memberships at a local health club here. So that was her real first gig, was selling health, memberships to the health club.
Right. So whatever the product is, somebody's selling it. It has more to, it's, how it's packaged, but it's also the person who's presenting it. And I always tell people, it's just like singing, I'm sure there are many singers that are far superior than some of the biggest stars, but they didn't have the right agent and they weren't sold the way somebody else was sold. And so I think being in the real estate business, if you step back, and I kind of have an odd perspective on it, but I think it's a lot of different skills, tenacity. Obviously, you have to know your stuff. You have to be willing to work. You have to handle rejection, but you also have to know how to sell and how to present yourself. And now that most of the business or teams are building basically businesses within the business, then you have to know how to package that. I go on Facebook and I kind of look at all the people doing blogs and all the people that are coaches and all the people that are consultants and all the people that have their face on and they give a blurb about whatever. There's millions. So I always say you have to kind of look at the white space and you have to look at how you make yourself stand out. And that's something that you have to step back and look at you and what you're talented in and what you sell in and what are your strong points, and then kind of package it so that you stand out from somebody else.
Well, the differentiation, and I look at some of the things that you were saying, and I've obviously watched a lot of your show. I've listened to the shows on the radio, which I thought was really cool, to the real estate radio that I'm doing here. So Dottie showing up every Saturday on the radio. That was
It's 14 years I've given up every Saturday.
Is it 14
and not to make
now?
any money. Well, maybe it's not that long. I think maybe it's like 10 or 11. Okay, but it's 10 or 11, and I probably missed maybe 3 or 4 Saturdays a year. And I never made money. I'm running a company, so I wasn't about to go around, and I didn't have time to go around and find salespeople to pay for it. So I had one sponsor, the bank, and they paid for the show, but I didn't personally make any money on it. I loved it. I really love it. I love radio, and I hope that at some point that I have more time now, that I could really end up doing a show that's a little real estate, but also incorporates lifestyle, since I think that's so much a part of the real estate that we sell. It's not only the house or the apartment, it's the whole lifestyle. And I think that's important, especially for millennials. And I think since that's the biggest segment of buyers at the moment, I think I always tell people, your house has to appeal to a millennial, okay? Not somebody who, a baby boomer. So, yeah, so I think, and I think being real, I don't waste my time somebody who really doesn't click with me, because if I don't click with someone or they don't click with me, because I really believe, even in my own personal things, I tell people I won't use a doctor that I don't feel I have any connection to, even if he's great. I have to feel connections, and I think that's the same with people. So I think that you connect with certain people, and if you don't connect, unless you're really very good or you just caught them at a really bad time, I don't spend a lot of time trying to connect with people that I don't even connect with to begin with.
Right. And that's where a lot of time can be wasted on those folks that are just going to be determined to get that deal and that relationship started, even though it may not be clicking.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm pretty good at speaking to whoever I have to speak to, and the personality, and be who I need to be for that person I'm dealing with. So, if I'm dealing with a numbers guy, then that's more about numbers, if I'm dealing with somebody who's very visual. But at the same day, you can't get everything. So I don't say you don't try to, I wouldn't say you just give up. But I think if you get to a point where you don't have any rapport, then, then maybe sometimes you need to say, okay, I might try to work with someone that I at least have a shot at. And it's the same thing with customers. I don't sell real estate anymore, but I did. And I was very young. I was like maybe 23. And so they would come in and say, huh, I bought and sold 2 or 3 houses before you were even born. And I would say to them, look, I get that. And I couldn't hide my age. I said, if you're more comfortable with somebody older, then that's who you should use. But I am telling you, don't let age throw you off. There's no one better than me. Okay. And there were some people who really felt more comfortable with being, that I was a kid, and they felt that, and they wanted, and I couldn't fudge experience because I was too young to look like I was in the business 20 years. And those people, and I did that the same thing on listings. I said, listen, because I think that on listing presentations, people, do this because they don't want to be sold. So if you take that pressure off them, and I tell them, listen, at the end of the day, something has to be good for you as well as me for it to work. All I ask is that you hear what I have to say and how I think you can benefit from it. And if you don't think that, at the end, if you say, Dottie, thanks for telling me about it, but I don't see myself a benefit, then you shouldn't do it. Okay. I like to take the pressure off people, because a lot of people don't want to be sold. So they kind of clam up and they're really not hearing you. So I kind of like to let that just go away and hopefully have that person. I'm not saying that they don't have any objections, because there was always objections, but that they're not going to feel that they're backed in a corner and can't get loose. Mm-hmm. Now, that might be an effective way for some people. So I'm not knocking. If something works for you, then go ahead and do it. But that's really never been my approach. Okay.
So with the show, Real Estate Radio, we always try to focus on positivity, focus on kindness, and just some of the philanthropy stuff that you guys have done. You've done, specifically. But one comment that I read that you said was kind of hitting home for me, that you love helping people follow their dreams. And so I imagine over time, there's been some agents that have come into the company, and whether you're recruiting them or just trying to find out if they're the right fit, have there been those moments where you were like, geez, this really isn't right for you, and you had to give them that tough love?
I wouldn't say that was my best quality. Because I'm a believer. I try to believe in people and find something in them. So I probably took chances on people that somebody else would have not even bothered with. And in many cases, they probably were right. But in some cases, I found that believing in a person, me believing that somebody can do something, was a big plus for them. And sometimes people have no one who believes in them. And there was something that I kind of learned when I was at Merrill Lynch, but I think that, people will work harder not to let a team down than sometimes they'll work for themselves. So I found that people that I believed in almost didn't want to disappoint me. So, there's many people that I really coached a lot that did not come in thinking they were going to kill the world or that they were going to be any great good, and they didn't have any support system that was positive. Now, if you don't like the business and if you hate the business, well, then, there's no point, because if you don't love what you do, you're never going to be great at it. But I found that people, if you believe in someone, and there's so many people that don't have anyone that believes in them, it makes a difference. Even in companies, where we grew to be such a big company, and it's hard to know everybody's name. So I used to know everybody's name, and then all of it, okay, what's my name? You don't even know it. Well, there's 7,000 people. Okay, but you have done nothing to know me either. So I should remember your name when you've never come to anything, meetings, you've never come to any of the functions that we have. You never stopped by the office, but I should say, let me remember the name of someone who I've never seen in 5 years and never left their office. But I think that, I think that getting yourself out there, knowing, and when I worked at Merrill, I was in my early 20s, 23, 24, around there. And I made sure, I was nobody, but I made sure to go to all their stuff, all these, they had a lot of courses. I went to them. I didn't have a lot of money. I saved money to go fly here, fly there. And I always made sure to get into those groups, even if they didn't really talk to me, of the top people that made decisions. Okay, because when I worked for Merrill, their main headquarters was in California and I'm in New York. So I'm not going to meet any of the players that make those big decisions. I wasn't going to meet them in New York. And and this is a true story. So, there were, at the time, every state, Merrill was a national company, it wasn't a franchise. And so each state, depending on how many offices they had X amount of regional managers. Mm-hmm. So California was North California, South California. Well, we had 6. And, Merrill just sends out a memo one day and says, we are downsizing and we are going to end up with only one regional manager in every state or region. Sometimes a region wasn't a whole state. Okay. So now there's 6 of us, or at least, and we were in the Northeast region, and obviously we were all friends. We all worked together. We were like a team. And I was the youngest, if I recall. So I'm like, well, it's going to be me. And the other guys going, no, it's going to be him because he knows so-and-so. And I don't know. But I never really thought they would end up picking me. And I got a call one day from this man who I'd never heard of or met. He said, hello, my name is Floyd. They call me Hatchet Floyd because I hatchet companies. He said, I'm calling to tell you that I picked you as the person. And I probably at the time felt least qualified. I was the youngest. I was in the business not that long. And I said, well, I would love to be flattered, but you never even met me. And he said, they took me out of retirement. I'm here. I asked a lot of people across the country. Everyone said you. And I said, well, I'm glad you asked people that liked me. But it was that I was one of the few people that went out and got out and went to different things and got to know different people. And if I had not done that, it wouldn't be that I would be not good, but he wouldn't have even known who I was. And so he asked people and they knew me because I went around. And obviously they might have thought I'd be good too, but I think visibility and getting out there is important. And I think people going to different things and connecting, like when you go to any kind of seminar thing or, 2 or 3 day thing, you certainly want to have a social aspect of it where you're having fun, but you need to go there for a specific purpose. And the purpose should not be to stick around with the people 24/7. And that's what usually happens. So I always get them, listen, you can have fun with your friends and all that stuff, but when you go during these business hours, you're working and you want to meet new contacts and new people and new sources of business that can be future referrals or that you can learn from. So
actually, it's probably a good place to change a little bit of a gear here because I do want to make sure we get to this, only because I watch these shows. I'm a fan of the $1 Million Listings, and I know between California and New York, there's a couple folks. I met Frederick, which was a kind of a fun moment at Riz Media, probably at least 5 or 6 years ago. I haven't met the Altman guy, but just in general, what is your take on that? What do you feel? Is that a negative for our industry, having folks watch these shows and get expectations through the roof?
I hired Frederick. He worked for another company. He came and he interviewed with me. And he pretty much, within the first 10 minutes, told me that he won top porn star or something for some kind of porn thing. Okay, so, but I found something about him, and he was not on $1 million listing yet. They didn't have it. So we didn't speak about that, but I saw something in him from the day I met him. So the attorney that was that's still in our company said, "You're not hiring him?" And I said, "I am." And then I called Howard Lorber and I said, "Howard, there's a guy here that I'm sitting with, and I really think he's going to be sensational. However, there's one thing." And I said, and I told him, and Howard goes, "Oh, hire him. I'm going to hire Ashley Dupree." So, we took a chance on him, but I saw something in him. And let me say this, if you've ever seen him work or his team work, it's one of the best organized teams I've ever seen. For Douglas Elliman, they have been one of the teams that generated to the company some of the most money. He's got John Gomes is a great leader also. And they work very hard and they are very professional. Now, nobody really knew what $1 million listing was going to be. So did we take a chance at Elliman letting him do it when we had no idea basically what the show was going to evolve to? We did. We took a chance. And I know that a lot of companies would have never taken that chance. But we took the chance, and I think that it helped real estate in so many ways, because when I started real estate, people looked at real estate as, maybe some woman who had a rich husband and she's bored. She went out and knows a lot of people, whatever. And, or some guy that retired and can't find a job. I mean, it didn't have that kind of status. And I think $1 million listing, although, I'm not usually doing a $20 million deal that I negotiate over the phone in 5 minutes. I think it brought the real estate industry to a whole other level of glamour and success. And there are so many people now that are young that want to be in real estate. And when I was young, nobody wanted to be in real estate. It was kind of like,
connected to that?
I was sent you to college to go to real estate. What?
But do you think it's partly connected then to the show being on the air, having that infuse of folks coming in with more passion and younger because of the show being on TV excites them?
I think the show is great for the industry, whether you work for Elliman or not. I think I had, I'm in some group, I can't remember which one it was, but I'm in some CEO group. So it was my turn to host the 30 CEOs. So I did it in New York. And on the third day, they wanted to meet that. And these are CEOs. They all had their iPhones out. They're sending it to their agents. Their agents were all, and I asked them, "Would you come and speak and come and let them meet you?" And all the CEOs wanted to meet them. And they were like taking pictures, and they were taping, and they were having their agents see it. I think they did a wonderful. I think they made our business so glamorous. It was not a glamorous business. I think they raised, and they are so professional and dressed to the nines. And I think a lot of younger people from $1 million listing, because, I have doctors, dentists, you name it, working at Douglas Elliman. I won't say that the money didn't play into it a bit, but I think it was a good thing. I wouldn't have known that initially because we had no idea, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. It's raised the whole idea of real estate.
Yeah, and what you just mentioned before about the perception of the real estate agent being the wife that has nothing to do, so she's going to go off and sell a couple houses, and then there's all these random stories or scenarios. But for me, when I started, Dottie, I was like, agents were being forgotten, and that's what really confused me. When they're establishing a relationship, have a great relationship, they close on the deal, and then just don't stay in touch, so they don't do what they should to stay in touch. The relationship part always was left behind. And for me, that's like, if there's one thing, the most important thing an agent does is what you already referenced, is build relationships, meet new people, grow your sphere. To me, if you're forgotten, you're doing something wrong. Because my thought is, the stat, 75% of consumers would have that agent again. They'd love to work with them again. but only X% do. That's been here since the beginning of time, as far as I can tell.
You're right.
But my thought is, maybe I'm wrong. My thought is, yes, you're being stolen from because you're not staying in touch, but you're also being stolen from because of all these lead gen sites. All these leads are being thrown around with my sphere person that knows me and likes me and trusts me, but I haven't talked to them in 3 years. A lead happens, they contact, and they can be stolen from. Instead of, oh, I forgot you. I didn't know you still did that real estate thing.
No,
Because the
I think
perception is
that,
it's a part-time, it's a career, it's a full-time gig.
no, but I think I'm very much in agreement with you. I think that people really don't, for most part, follow up. And I'm a big believer. I'm like, oh, so you had an open house, and let's just say one person was interested, and there's 9 others that were there, and they weren't interested. But make an A, B, and C list and put them in your C list, okay? And even if it's just like, you know, Happy Halloween or Merry Happy Holidays or something like that, you know, and there's where there's systems. And again, I believe in systems, that people have systems, because you, as you get in the business, you can't remember everybody. So I was taught 30 years ago, only they did it on index cards then. They didn't have systems. You know, you'd put the name of the person, and then you'd put some comment that would make you remember, oh, their daughter was just starting college, and their husband was starting a new job. And so that when you call them again, you'd say, oh, you know, and how's your daughter doing? How's she enjoying college? Does she like it? And, you know, it's impossible to remember, but we did it on index cards. But that's how I was trained. There's a tremendous amount of systems that really you could plug in, and then you could plug in comments. And then of course you have A customers and B customers. And, but I think that's a big, big, big downfall of many people.
I think that's because they just want to get on to the next bigger deal.
I don't think that they really understand that's part of selling.
Right.
That's part of sales. That's, you know, again, like, and then today it's even harder because, you know, if I, you know, I told you in the beginning, I'm an insomniac. So if I can't sleep and I feel like looking at a house and I see something, you know, I might do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. So people want quick response. So you might be working with someone, and sometimes it's just to be timing, that you just didn't get them at the right time, and you can't necessarily keep in touch with everyone for 1 minute. But there's also programs, and I used to like to register people on programs, and maybe this is old fashioned, but you know, when they looked at a house, if I put the criteria and I'd say, look, anytime something comes out, I'm going to send it to you. Because I didn't have to do anything. I just put their name in, the criteria, and it would come out. They would get something from me. But I also did that when they bought a house. Because people then, when they made the sale, definitely don't keep in touch with them, okay? And so what I would do is say, you know, because people are always going to be interested after they bought a property and what else is for sale, and theirs is better. And so there's a million programs, and they're not new. They've been around. Where you can just register that customer that you sold the house to, and they would automatically every, you know, month or two, however you set it up, get new sales that are in their area. So, and who doesn't want to know about what's sold in their area, even if you're not looking? And that's a way to keep your name in front of somebody. And there's really, once you put their names in and enter the criteria, you don't have to touch it anymore.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, you hit on systems and processes and follow-up, and you got to have them. And whether you use your CRM to do it, whether you just have the sticky notes, whatever it is, the Rolodex, got to have a system.
Or your assistants do it. But but if you go to my initial thought, when I said people don't know how to sell, whether you're selling widgets or you're selling real estate or you're selling, you know, electronic products, that's part of selling. Okay. Now, great, learning how to do a good listing, you know, presentation, understanding, you know, how to close people. Those are all things. But part of selling is also maintaining that relationship and keeping in touch with people. And, you know, I'm like you, however you do it, whatever's comfortable for you. But if you don't have some kind of system, you're never going to keep on remembering people. And then the second mistake is people then, if they have a system, try to do it only for the people that they sold. Well, it's a numbers game too. And so it's timing. So if you if you just take the people that you really didn't have any relationship with, they came to an open house and left, and just put them in this list, and they get something every couple of months. Sometimes, I don't say that's as effective as when you have a relationship, but you will get a couple just because your timing was right.
Well, I think the most important thing for an agent to do is get a system in place, like you mentioned, but also just never hesitate to start new relationships and find new folks. You know, back in the day of the PTA, the Chamber of Commerce, and all the stuff that folks used to do to interact and network, now it's here. And so one of my thoughts is I don't think agents are doing enough of this. So I look at Frederick and Josh and all these, Ryan Serhant, all these $1 million listing guys, and their behaviors, these guys work their butts off. And
They do.
well, I'm sure some of them don't. I'm not saying everyone works hard, but the way the perception is that we're supposed to watch these shows and see, they do work pretty hard, but they also will share their thoughts about why they didn't work hard that day or what stumbling blocks they run into. I think Ryan does a pretty good job of that, but Frederick to me is just a gem. I mean, I think he'd be a
gem. And when I tell you, he's the greatest human being with a heart, and never stuck up about anything, and truly a great salesman, and always is willing to share. But again, you can't be Frederick either. So like, yeah, like you might not look like him, you might not be selling $1 million listings. I mean, a lot of people say, well, what about me? I'm not selling $1 million. And so, you can take what you can learn from them, and then you have to make it you. Like I'm not going to try to be Frederick. I mean, I'm not Frederick. He's man. So then, but the skills that you pick up, you then have to take and make and incorporate them into who you are. And there might be things that he does that you're just not comfortable with because it's not your personality. And then, like if I'm not really comfortable with something, I'll try it. Maybe, it takes me some time. And sometimes I'll just never be comfortable with it and I just won't do it. It's not something that's in my DNA. I rather concentrate on what I'm good at and what I like doing. So
Sure.
I don't say that because if you look at them, sometimes people say, well, look at that. I can't. And they're on television. And of course that does not hurt. But, somebody seeing them every single day. I mean, every single week, it's been years. It's been running a long time. So, I don't want to tell you that that's not also helpful, because that is. So you can't be them, but you can learn some of the things and then make it you, because I think that's really the essence of sales, is letting someone feel that they think they know you, and they feel that they trust you, and they feel that they have a rapport with you. And if you try to be somebody you're not, you might keep it up for a little bit, but it's hard to keep that up. So
what you just said makes the most sense, is where you're going to find a little piece of that person that you're not going to be exactly like Frederick, but Frederick does this. And I think I can do that. I mean, I don't want to be Frederick, but I like what he did there. So I'm going to try to do that next time I'm on a listing presentation or whatever that case may be, because there's so many great little gems you can pick up watching those shows.
yeah.
But I think it might blow out the expectations of an agent. Think, I'll get there someday. You got to have that thought or you'll never get there. If you don't have that dream in your head, the reality will never come.
Well, again, everyone has different motivations. And so when I was first starting out in sales, they didn't have a million sophisticated courses, but I remember that saying to me, Dottie, like, what is it that you want? Like, do you want a new car? What is it? And put that vision of whatever it is you're trying to get, that you should have goals. I don't know if that's what drove me, because I never did. I mean, I'd say, okay, yeah, I'll do it, but I didn't really. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to be, and that's my personality. I tell people, I don't like average. I don't want to be average at anything. So I'm willing to be at the bottom and then look and say, okay, you're still at the bottom, but you're a little higher off the bottom. And now you're a little higher. And now you finally hit average. So I have no problem starting at the bottom and working to keep on getting better. And I think that the day that you say you know everything, is the day you should leave the business, including myself. I learn from so many different people. I don't only go to real estate things. I sometimes go to things that have nothing to do with real estate so that I'm a little bit more well-rounded and I can speak about anything. And I've learned from people by watching what not to do. And I certainly learned from people who I think are fantastic. And I think if you read any of those success books, they always tell you, you should try to hang around with people that are ahead of you, that may be better than you. And when I talk to young people who are just starting, I say, you know what? Chances are, but before you pick them, find out how much they make, because you don't want to have a mentor that never made any money. But, a lot of people will take the time to mentor you, some won't. But it's always good to have that.
Well, I can't imagine, the folks in the last 20 years that I've known you, the folks that have followed you and have listened to you and have been led, to you. I guarantee 99.9% got a benefit of spending some time with that.
I hope so. I hope I can make a difference. I hope that, and then one day that's kind of what I really want to do. I want to then take all of what happened to me and the stumbles and the falls and the ups and downs, and I want to be able to tell people that story. I want to be able to help people believe in themselves more, but not sugarcoat things and not say that it's like so easy, And when I started the business, I think they said, oh, well, you just have to sell 3 houses, sell them, show them an ugly one, a middle one, and then the one they like at the end, and then they'll close them. And real estate, I don't think 90% of the people that are not in the business have any idea how difficult it is. It's a very difficult business. It's a very competitive business, but to me, it's so rewarding because it's never the same. You meet people of all different types that you would never, and some you end up staying in touch with forever. But by all means, I don't think people realize it is a difficult business.
Well, that's where Chipman's sitting here. How many times over my 20 years, Dottie, has someone said, why don't you get your license? I want you to come work with us. I'll be traveling all over the country, different brokerages, whether it's in Iowa or Arizona or Buffalo. It's always like, why don't you get your license? Because you guys work so hard. Not that I don't work hard, but I know that if I was really dedicated as an agent, I wouldn't see my family. And the top producers always say things like, I make time for myself. I always make sure I don't do this or I don't do that. But a good agent, I think for the most part, always
gets they're lucky. Because I went to all the time management classes that you could go to and I flunked them all. Okay, so, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody who's mastered it, so I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying that for me, I mean, I listen to them and, it just never works for me. When I'm in the middle of something, I don't know how you just say I'm going home, okay? And it's just unfortunate because if you can figure it out, and maybe some people have, it's hard on your family because you can't sometimes be on time. I remember always coming to things late. I was always the last minute something went on. So it's hard, and you need, and it's really good if you have a supportive family who understands that. But like I said, different strokes for different folks. I love talking to you now. I love sharing what I've learned. Was my dream to be the top salesman in the company ever? No, but I know how to sell. But would it be my passion to just do that 24/7? No. I like what I'm doing now. I like sharing information. I like growing people. I think I have pretty good vision. I like looking out and helping people see where they want to go and where the white space is, where they can stand out. And I like seeing people, grow and develop. And I hope that I can eventually help some people be leaders and great leaders and better than your goal, if you're somebody who's not insecure and if you is always to build a team and have people around you, and hopefully they'll be better than you. And I think when people are building teams, I notice in some teams, some people are afraid of that. They say, oh my God, this guy can be better than me. Okay. And, or if you do see a guy that's better or a woman that's better, that's going to be better than you, then, you can't keep them down here. They're certainly going to leave and go on their own. So you've got to be smart to say, this is a valuable player. I don't want to lose him So I'm not gonna keep them like, as somebody who's gonna just show listings.
Mhm.
I'm gonna bring them up, and so, I think, but again, everyone gets something different about it. I know people that really, that's selling and being a big producer is so important to them, and that's most important. So I think everyone has to kind of look at what they love. And you seem to be passionate about what you're doing now, and you certainly are a great interviewer. Uh, I'd love to talking to you, and I certainly would love to come again. I'm on a time slot now, but I think that what you're doing is so valuable, and I think that that's how people learn.
Well, that's nice. That's nice of you to say, Dottie. It's just a small little show that, I've watched you on CNBC. I've watched you on all these little shows, and I've watched you, like I said, over the last 15, 20 years at conferences and sharing your love, sharing your knowledge. And like I said, I'm sure there's many people that will watch this, and hopefully many, many people will. Sorry, LinkedIn is so
Oh, I
difficult
hope
to get
so.
traction.
But if you send it to me, and then I'll post it also.
Oh, right on. Well, yeah. And so that wouldn't be shocking at all. Just the time I've spent over 2 years to finally get some time with you. I think that is the biggest sale of my life.
You may have put a big smile on my face. So let me say this to you. I will come back again, and certainly let's keep in touch. Let's not do what we said agents shouldn't do. Let's make sure we keep in touch. How's that?
I would love to do that. I appreciate you, Dottie. I really do. And again, just watching folks go to the stage all these years to get 5 seconds with Dottie, and for you to give me this 45-minute chat, I respect you. I admire you, and I have to end with this. I usually end with the bucket list. There's so many things I want to talk to you about. iBuyers. There's things that I know I could pick your brain on.
I'm glad to do it. They gave me, and this time was an hour, and so I have another appointment. But I'm glad to come back and resume wherever you want. I love. You're a great interviewer. I like the show. You're easy to speak to, and if I didn't think that, I wouldn't do it again. But I'm glad I'd let you just get it into my schedule, and I really would like to stay in touch.
Well, so yeah, you can see my notes. I have so many things I was going to say, but I just love listening to you chat. I know I'm absorbing stuff. I'll watch this back, and we'll get this up on LinkedIn sometime.
You don't have to
next
say
week.
anything. You know what we can say until we speak again, which will be soon, because we are not going to give advice that we don't keep ourselves. And we just gave the world advice on how you should follow up and keep in touch with, and I feel that we have I feel a connection with you. I feel, I enjoy being on this show. And thank you for inviting me. It was just as much an honor for me to be on it. You put a smile on my face.
Oh, Miss Dottie. So I'm going to follow that lead until we speak again.
Sayonara. Speak very soon. And enjoy the weekend.
You too, Dottie. Good day.
Thanks. Bye.
And my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me, but I've never caught a glimpse